Julius Randle is going to approach this season on a mission. I'm sure he feels really disrespected by the entire NBA really, but also the Knicks for thinking that Karl-Anthony Towns is better than him. He's going to be on a mission this season. Some guys can give you 15 to 20 points in the regular season and then the playoffs disappear. What's good, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Wrong vs. Right. I'm your host, Jay. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We got some big news in the NBA. Let's get straight to it. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded Karl-Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo. Now, this is a blockbuster deal that nobody really saw coming. We knew there was some tension between the Knicks and Julius Randle, but we didn't know how imminent this trade was going to be. There's a lot of mixed emotions for Knicks fans and Timberwolves fans, and they don't know how to feel about it. Well, more so, Knicks fans, Timberwolves fans are upset, it seems like. The general consensus on social media is that they didn't want to get Julius Randle. They like Karl-Anthony Towns' fit with the Timberwolves, which I can understand. He's a stretch four, statistically speaking, the best shooting big of all time. And him and Ant-Man had really good chemistry on the court. For the Timberwolves, it'll be interesting to see how Julius Randle can play with Ant-Man, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert. Julius Randle is going to approach this season on a mission. I'm sure he feels really disrespected by the entire NBA really, but also the Knicks for thinking that Karl-Anthony Towns is better than him. He's going to be on a mission this season, and I'm really excited to see how well he does. As we know, Julius Randle is a guy that likes to go to the rim, likes to finish through contact, and is more of an inside scorer. He can still shot create a little bit, but he's not as good of a shooter as Karl-Anthony Towns. Despite all of that, Julius Randle is a walking double-double, a walking 20 and 10. So it's not like he's a scrub. It's gonna be interesting to see the fit between Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. Before Timberwolves fans say it's not gonna work at all, we have to look at how Julius Randle played with guys like Mitchell Robinson, who's also a shot blocker and a non-shooter. Julius Randle still got his points and his rebounds playing alongside Mitchell Robinson. So it's not like he can't do it, but it's gonna be an adjustment for somebody like Rudy Gobert. He's gonna have to set a lot more screens, space out a little bit more on the dunker's box, and give Julius Randle space to create and operate. On the court as well, Julius Randle needs the ball in his hands to be most effective, whereas Karl-Anthony Towns could be a spot-up shooter. On the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards does most of the shot creating, most of the scoring, so he's gonna have the ball in his hands and get the highest usage on the Timberwolves. You can't underestimate how good of a coach Coach Finch is. He's an F&M grad. Shout out to my F&M people out there. He knows what he's doing. I'm sure he already has some schemes set up to make Julius and Ant-Man most effective. The Timberwolves are still a playoff team. By no means are they out of playoff contention by making this trade. But it is a curious move considering how much chemistry the Timberwolves had together. The other aspect of this trade is Donte DiVincenzo and his effect on the Timberwolves. DiVincenzo is a guy that can space the floor, has great shooting, can defend, and he's tough. You need tough guys in the playoffs. I harp on this point a lot in my videos. Toughness is so underrated in the NBA. Toughness is so underrated in basketball and in the NBA because it comes up when you need it most, in the playoffs. Some guys can give you 15 to 20 points in the regular season and then the playoffs disappear. DiVincenzo keeps that same energy in the regular season and the playoffs. You don't have to worry about him switching up. Now the question remains, does this trade make the Timberwolves a better or a worse team? That really remains to be seen because we have to see how these guys can learn how to play together. When it comes to talent, especially on the offensive side, there's not that big of a difference between Karl-Anthony Towns and Julius Randle. They're both guys that give you around 20 and 10. Karl-Anthony Towns, however, is a much better defender and he's 7 foot tall. Transitioning over to the impact on the Knicks. The Knicks gained Karl-Anthony Towns, who's one of the best bigs in the NBA. We have to accept that fact and we have to acknowledge it. The Knicks addressed their needs by getting Karl-Anthony Towns. They needed a big that could play defense while Mitchell Robinson is out. In addition to that, Karl-Anthony Towns gives them another aspect of their offense. They now have a stretch big, so now when Jalen Brunson comes off the pick and roll, Karl-Anthony Towns can roll to the basket or he can pop and be a legitimate threat. Julius Randle could shoot the 3-ball, but not at the same rate as Karl-Anthony Towns. On the defensive end, the Knicks now have another guy that can match up with somebody like Kristaps Porzingis, Joel Embiid, or Giannis Antetokounmpo. When it comes to the new rotation for the Knicks, they're now about 7 to 8 guys deep. Now, depending on who starts, I think it's going to be between Josh Hart and Deuce McBride. I think Josh Hart will start. But their bench now is Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet, Marcus Morris, Cameron Payne. Having Donte DiVincenzo come off the bench for the Knicks was a really big deal. The Knicks depth chart isn't nearly as deep as it was before this trade. Conversely, they arguably have the best starting five in the NBA. Overall, both teams did what they thought was best for each of their respective franchises. It remains to be seen who got the better of this trade. I really went back and forth on who I think won this trade. I weighed the pros and cons for both teams, but ultimately, I think the team that won this trade is the New York Knicks. Yes, they lost Donte DiVincenzo, who was a huge piece for them. Yes, they lost Julius Randle, who's a walking 20 and 10. But ultimately, they gained a guy who's slightly better than Julius Randle and a much better shooter, but a guy that can also play defense on elite 7-footers. But hey, I could be wrong. The Timberwolves could be way better than the Knicks this season, or vice versa. But that remains to be seen. Let me know in the comments below who you think got the better of this trade. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching. And everybody can be wrong, but everybody can be right. All right, I'm out.